The punishment for cheating will fit the crime. I sat and watched the television. USC was playing Nebraska. It was a game approaching the fourth quarter. Without Reggie Bush and Landell White, USC had a bad offense. I noticed my wife coming out of the kitchen. She had a sour look on her face. She always seems to have a sour look on her face lately. 2 months ago, our youngest had just left for college, and for the first time in 18 years, we were alone with each other. I think every time we are alone together, the look on her face changes. My name is Bill Jackson, and I am 44 years old and live in sunny Orange County, California. My wife, Sheila, has spent most of her adult life as a homemaker raising 3 children. About a year ago, she decided to return to work. It was during this time that I began to notice subtle changes in her attitude. The frequency of sex began to slowly decrease. I never really paid much attention to it. I just figured it was normal when you were married for 22 years. Shortly after she started working, she joined a 24-hour fitness gym. She wanted to get in shape. I thought it was a great idea, so I started going to the gym regularly, too. I need to lose a few pounds. I spent too much time sitting at a desk. I needed to do something to perk myself up. I feel better working out early in the morning before I get to work. I seem to have more energy at that time of day. If I worked out in the evening, I was usually too tired to enjoy it. My wife was the complete opposite. She hated getting up early and would either head out to work out during her long lunch break or leave right after work before she got home. I began to realize that our schedules made us strangers in our own home. We had always participated in school and sports activities for the kids. But now that the kids were gone, it was obvious that we had very little in common. I could see us steadily drifting away from each other into our own worlds. I tried my best to remedy the situation, but with little success. I suggested movie nights, dinner dates, cruises, but nothing seemed to pique her interest. I knew my marriage was in trouble and divorce loomed on the horizon. All that was missing was the trigger to set it in motion. It was frustrating waiting for the other shoe to drop and knowing that I wouldn't be able to stop the inevitable. The look on Sheila's face when I was in her presence seemed to grow more sour each week. Finally, one day I asked her if something was bothering her and if she wanted to talk about it. She turned and looked at me and said, "I'm unhappy." When I asked why she wasn't happy, she turned away and said she didn't know. I wasn't being a fool. I know that one guy's good girl can be another guy's bad girl, so my wife might not be as innocent and faithful as she was in Death Do Us Part. I seriously doubted that her sex drive had diminished in any way. Her loss of love desire for me probably meant that she had either found someone else or was close, and maybe even thought she had married the wrong guy. Her depression from being with me could be due to her temporarily losing the high she gets from being with the guy she made love to. I wonder how many soulmates she's already slept with in her search for Mr. Best. She probably assumed that I was unaware of the real possibility of her having an affair, and her disinterest in having sex with me, and that she was a good girl in my eyes. I don't think she ever knew me to underestimate me like that. I knew I couldn't let her play with me anymore. It was time to take action. She was easy to catch. I hid several small voice-activated voice recorders around the house and under the seat of her car. I also installed a GPS in her car so I would always know where she was. It only took a couple days to find out who she was dating, where and when. The guy's name was Bob Martin. He was married, had 2 kids, and worked as a salesman in her office. I wasn't so much upset as I was disgusted by her actions. If Sheila had said to me, "Look, Bill, this isn't working anymore. I don't love you, the kids are gone, and I want to find someone else to spend my life with," I would have been upset and hurt, but I would have respected her for her honesty and moved on without any hostility. But that's not what she did. She snooped around behind my back looking for a replacement, clinging to the security and lifestyle I provided. She made my life miserable because of her sour attitude. She removed me from my marital obligation to provide my partner with sex, and she broke her marriage vows because of her own selfish actions. No, I will not go quietly into the night. The punishment will fit the crime. Now it was up to me to decide what that would be. Time was on my side, and I could strike unexpectedly on my own terms and on my own turf. A few days had passed, and she had already met him twice more. Making love must have been fun, but all good things come to an end sometime. I ruled out murder. It would be too easy, and they'd be dead without a lengthy punishment. No, it had to be something that would be such an embarrassment that they could no longer continue their jobs or live in this town. I had to come up with something that the newspapers could spend more than one day with and turn them into the laughingstock of society. I spent a couple days thinking about different courses of action and working through different scenarios. I finally realized what I was going to do. The next day, I told Sheila that I had a dentist appointment and would not be going to work this morning. I waited until my faithful wife left for work and then went to her computer. I downloaded her address file into Outlook and uploaded it to my laptop. I then created a mailing list consisting of many of her company's employees, her friends, co-workers, and her family members. That way, with a few keystrokes, I could email any file I wanted. I went to the bank and closed all joint accounts and credit cards. I took all the money and transferred it to accounts in the Cayman Islands. She would get a share of the house, so we would have an equal distribution. I then retrieved the hidden voice-activated voice recorders. Her one-way conversation told me they were going to meet at noon at the Motel 6 to make love all day. This was the chance I'd been waiting for. I need something to quickly scare them into submission, so I packed my Colt .45 automatic in a small bag. That should do the trick. Then I threw some other necessities into the small bag and a bottle of extremely effective and fast-acting cherry-flavored laxative. Then I headed for the motel. There was only one in town, and about 1-2 blocks away was a Starbucks. It was the perfect place to wait and watch the traffic. I pulled out my computer to keep an eye on her car and began to wait. As it turned out, I didn't need a GPS. I saw her car pass around 11:50 a.m., so I got out and watched her pull into the motel parking lot. I grabbed my bag and laptop and headed across the street toward the motel. I saw her head straight for room 6. I saw him let her in. I gave them about 10 minutes. I entered the motel and walked up to the room. I knocked on the door and yelled, "It's the police! Open up now!" I heard the door chain jingle and the door opened. As the door opened, I pushed it open with my shoulder and the guy landed on his ass. He wasn't expecting someone to bust through the door. Sheila was lying on the bed naked and aghast when she saw me. I hit the guy over the head with my .45 and told him to lie face up on the bed, and if he moved, he was dead. I opened my bag and pulled out a roll of duct tape and tossed it to Sheila. She was sobbing hysterically. I told her to shut up unless she wanted me to shoot her too. I said, "You cheater, duct tape his hands and feet to the bedposts. Do it now." I pointed the gun at her and told her that if she made a single sound, she was finished. When she finished tying up her lover, I told Sheila to lie on her back on top of him, placing her ass on his chest next to his face. I then placed a couple pillows on his legs so Sheila could lay her head in an elevated position. I then taped Sheila's legs to the bedpost with duct tape. They were both scared to death because they thought I was going to kill them. I got out a bottle of laxatives. I had removed the label beforehand so she had no idea what it was. I told her to drink it, and if she spit it out, she would regret it. She finished the bottle like a good girl, and I told her it was cherry-flavored sparkling water and she had nothing to worry about. She seemed to relax. I told her to lean back on the 2 pillows. I wanted her head and chest to be elevated above her stomach. Then I finished taping her arms to the bedposts with duct tape. I pulled out my smartphone and took a couple pictures of the cute couple. Then I pulled my laptop out of my bag and loaded the pictures into it. I have a satellite connection on my laptop through Sprint, so I can access the internet from just about anywhere. I then went over and grabbed her panties off the floor, stuffed them in my lover's mouth, and taped his mouth shut with duct tape. I grabbed his boxers, walked over to my wife, stuffed them in her mouth, and duct taped her mouth shut. I then went into the bathroom, got a large glass of water, and sat in the chair. I drank the water quickly. I was thirsty. Well, I looked at the clock and figured I had about 10 more minutes to go. I turned on the TV and couldn't believe my luck. The Jerry Springer show was on, and they had two fugitives fighting each other over some skinny guy with no teeth. Unbelievable. Just at that moment, I heard my wife start moaning into her boxers. She started twirling back and forth and seemed to be in some discomfort. And then it happened. It was an explosion of epic proportions. The feces burst out of her ass, landing right on her lover's face. I said to myself, this woman must not have pooped in a couple days. I told her that it was really disgusting and she should go to the bathroom more often. I took a couple more pictures. I had what I needed. I loaded the photos into my laptop, opened Outlook, attached the 4 photos to an email, put "Scammers Caught Red-Handed" as the subject line, attached a mailing list, and hit send. Maybe it was cruel and unusual punishment, maybe not. I guess it depends on who the judge is. I then packed my laptop and other essentials. I said, "Hasta la vista, wifey, and have a happy life. You shit on me in our marriage, so I thought it would be nice for Bob to experience what it's like too. By the way, you're shitting in public now, so have fun living and working in this town." Shortly before I flew out to the Cayman Islands, I pulled out my cell phone, called the motel, and told the clerk that there was a couple in room 6 who urgently needed his help. I told him, "I think something hit the fan. I wonder if Sheila and Bob continued the affair. Well, if so, it must be true love. But if I know her, it won't be long before she shits on him again. Life goes on. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you."